I was wrong. Looks like I am a YouTuber now. Fuck it, we polling. That won't be the only correction I'm going to issue in this section. Here's more. In my Arcane Season 2 video, I accused Netflix of making executive decisions. That can be the case because Arcane belongs to Riot. It's only streamed on Netflix. I also said, and here I quote, "If you like this show, I don't understand your standards." While I do stand by that statement, it came off way too confrontational, which is a problem I have. I can be pretty abrasive in the way I express myself, and I am extremely good at being uncharitable towards other people's arguments. So please allow me to work on these flaws, starting from clarifying what I meant in my previous video. The goal of this channel is to simplify communication around media. I think there are a few misunderstandings that make us talk past each other, and I just want to create a healthy, transparent dialogue. That's why I define my terms whenever possible. And since you're going to hear the word standards quite a lot in this video, let's start from that. Simply put, standards are a set of useful criteria that are widely accepted by the population. They're useful because they're widely agreed upon. There's no utility in standards otherwise. Everyone has their set of criteria through which media is filtered. The question is whether or not those criteria are useful enough to be adopted as standards. My criteria for liking Age of Ultron is that I have a soft spot for AIs that learn how hard humanity sucks, and for James Spader's voice. Those may be fine as my personal criteria, but boy would they suck as standards. Can you imagine if I were to evaluate each movie based on the presence of James Spader's voice and robots? But these are just my parameters, defined by my subjective taste. Nobody's getting harmed just because I say that I like Age of Ultron, so what's wrong with that? Unfortunately, here's where we can find our first misunderstanding. Colloquially speaking, people say, "This piece of media is good," while they probably mean, "I like this piece of media." While these two claims may sound similar, they're actually very different, and as such require different evidence. It all comes down to the relationship between a claim and the standards of evidence for it. For example, when I say, "I like this movie," the claim that I like something doesn't really require evidence. Humans exist, movies exist, and people have subjective opinions shaped by different circumstances. So the claim that I like a piece of media is a pretty mundane one, and can be taken at face value. Even if I were lying about it, it probably wouldn't shake your worldview, because you know that people lie about all kinds of things all the time. But this movie is a masterpiece is a totally different claim, and it requires a higher standard of evidence. When I say something is great, good, or a masterpiece, I'm implying a shared set of criteria that the product excels at meeting. We understand that the standards for judging movies include writing, acting, cinematography, lighting, sound design, and so on and so forth. If I call something a masterpiece, you're right to assume I'm referring to at least some of these aspects. Let's say you watch a movie or a show that I've called a masterpiece, but you think it's garbage. Poorly acted, nonsensical, cheap. If I respond by saying, "Well, it's a masterpiece in my opinion," what am I really telling you? I'm saying that, according to my personal criteria, which I haven't shared with you by the way, this piece of media sits at the top. If I have to clarify that by masterpiece, I mean one of my favorite movies according to my taste, wouldn't I do better in just calling it one of my favorite movies? People say, "But that's just semantics," and yeah, semantics is pretty fucking important. Language exists to simplify communication, not to make it more confusing. I'm pretty sure you didn't have "foreign guy with broken English lectures you, most likely a native English speaker, on how to have a conversation" on your bingo card, but here you go, the magic of obnoxious YouTubers. Anyway, the point is that defining terms up front helps avoid misinterpretation. After all, words don't have inherent meanings, they have usages. Now you could argue that I'm a hypocrite here. Words don't have inherent meanings, so why not use masterpiece however we want? But we already have a working definition for masterpiece in the field of media evaluation. What would be my reason for hijacking this word without defining it first, if not to exploit the authority it already carries? That is not simplifying communication, that's engineering a situation where I can't lose. If you like the movie, I get to say, "See, it is a masterpiece and I was right all along." But if you dislike it, I'll just say, "Well, it's just my opinion, so I can be wrong." That's the kind of Schrodinger's review that a lot of YouTubers use. When I'm right, I'm the criticism god. descended from the heavens to bestow you with the light of my knowledge. And when I'm wrong, I'm just a chill guy who could totally be your friend and stuff. What's that now? A guy can have an opinion? Wow, jeez. If you listen up to this point, you might be thinking that this whole video is an exercise in futility, because art is subjective anyway, so there's no right or wrong. You'd be right. There is no right or wrong in art. Or outside of art. Right or wrong don't exist in a vacuum. They only exist in respect of a goal. Just a few minutes ago I said that the goal of this channel is to simplify conversation around media. Now that you know my goal, you can objectively evaluate how well I'm meeting it. Just like standards, goals need to be agreed upon. A useful example of this is the game of chess. Just like standards, the rules of the game of chess are man-made, can be changed, and have been changed. Yet, when two players sit at a table and agree on a common goal, there are objective evaluations that can be taken towards that goal. If your goal is to checkmate your opponent, there are objectively right moves and objectively wrong moves at any given moment. I could sit at the table to play a game of chess with my own rules, declaring myself the winner every time I felt like it. And technically, I would be objectively right. I would be the sole winner and the sole player of a unique version of chess that will never be accepted by anyone. Because the point of standards isn't for them to be absolute outside of a mind, it's only for them to be useful. Which leads us to my 3 standards categories. I classify standards in useful and consistent, useless and consistent, and finally useless and inconsistent. For example, in his video The Last Jedi, the most polarizing Star Wars movie, the Cosmonaut Variety Hours says this.
There are some people who are claiming that it is impossible to blow up a fleet by slamming into it with the hyperdrive. To those people, I have this to say.
You're a creep! Go away! We're having a good time until you showed up, jeepers!
No, but all joking aside, shut the fuck up, you goddamn idiots! It's a movie about space wizards!
Which will tell me that his standard is, as long as some fantasy is the genre, anything goes. My suspension of disbelief is limitless. I consider it to be in the consistent and useless category, mainly because I believe that limitations breed creativity, especially in writing. We care about stories because they deal with people like us, with human biology, weak to bullets, to heartbreak. The Force is only cool because it's a power that defies those human limitations we have in our universe. Nothing would be special about it if we didn't write humans as humans. Also, from a meta-narrative standpoint, when we tell writers anything goes, we're essentially telling writers not to bother with world building or coherent storytelling. If there are no limitations, then what's the point of improving your craft? Why strive for better storytelling if every idea is valid, regardless of execution? We reward laziness while we punish efforts and results. We incentivize people to make the same mistakes and ignore those who try to rise up. And that kind of logic can overflow into our everyday life. But in this other video he says,
except this time, they have a stupid gimmicky lightsaber. Plus, the new Inquisitors use their weird gimmicky lightsaber to fucking fly like a helicopter. I'm sorry, but this is ridiculous. Anyone who takes this show seriously needs to just look at this. Imagine if this was in a mainline Star Wars movie.
Which now means his standards are in the inconsistent and useless category. Basically turning into, as long as some kind of fantasy is the genre, anything goes. My suspension of disbelief is limitless. Unless I say otherwise. I don't think he really means that. I think that his real standard is, if I like it, it's good. And if I dislike it, it's bad. This video is not supposed to slander Cosmonaut or other creators that you might enjoy. But these people are influencers. They have a reach. And if they are using a faulty argument to get to their conclusions, then there is the real chance that people might add these unreliable tools to their logic toolboxes and use them to navigate media and real life. But let's shit on a different YouTuber. Me. I came out of Avengers Endgame calling it one of the best movies in the history of cinema. I have seen it 3 times in the movie theater, 2 of those I cried like a bitch. My emotions are not a reliable pathway to true conclusions. Today I will destroy Endgame in a review, and I will still be able to watch it again and cry like a bitch. I like it, and it's good, should never be breached by the word therefore. Not when I was only embarrassing myself crying about the first movie ever that featured fucking Fortnite of all things, and especially not now, then some of you may care about what I have to say. If I used only my emotions to evaluate media, it would be like giving you a ruler that changes size every time you need to use it on a different object. A tool that will only work as long as you already know me and like me. And that only takes you so far anyway. Even if you like me, we are bound to disagree at some point. I have received nothing but nice comments on my first video, and yet some people still disagree with me, and rightfully so. So when we eventually disagree, I would rather us to have a set of criteria to use, a way for you to tell me if I have been consistent in my evaluation, to keep me honest. If you have to know me before you can use my ruler, then my ruler is useless, and your time will be better invested experiencing said media for yourself, and making your own conclusions. And wouldn't that defeat the whole point of a review anyway? It should be a tool for an audience to get information about a product without the need to spend time and money. But you do need to know some things about me. My standards. My standards start with the presupposition that there is a non-verbal agreement between writer and audience. The writer asks the audience to suspend their disbelief and in return promises a story worth following and a message worth delivering. The writer assures us that, while everything is fake, if we trust them, we won't notice the man behind the curtain, pulling the strings of this lie. When we accept that everything is fake in a story, it means that when people complain about something being a plot device, what they really are saying is, every other plot device is well hidden within the lie. Why is this one so obvious? There is inconsistency in quality here. And it also means that things don't happen off screen and without a reason. Characters don't have major realizations off screen because this is not real life. They don't obtain important pieces of information or objects off screen. Everything happens in service of the narrative. We never show a character going to the toilet or sneezing unless it's a plot point. And this is important to my criteria because it means I cannot allow myself to be tempted by headcanon. I can't pretend characters did or said things off screen to ad hoc rationalize poor narrative. My standards deal with the meta-narrative, evaluating how good the lie is, when the man behind the curtain was easy to spot and why. That's why I value subtlety. The artifice is ruined if you write your message on a sign and smash it on my head. A writer is like a friend, inviting you to their house to show you their new toy. They really want us to see their creation, their set piece, their favorite moments. I judge how much they had to sacrifice in the narrative to get there. How much of the world building had to be broken for the writer to play with their favorite toy. That's why the word that best encapsulates all this concept is respect. I want you, writer, to respect your own creation. I want you to respect your own skill as a writer in delivering as a message, and I want you to respect your audience to get the message you are trying to deliver. Let's go with my favorite punching bag, Arcane Season 2. Specifically, the scene at the end of episode 3 in which Kate is appointed commander of Piltover. What is the toy in the scene? Clearly Kate's turning into a villain. As a writer, I will want this transformation to be the byproduct of everything bad happened to her up until this point. I'd want to show a rift between her and Vi. Not a simple one, a savage one, a primal rift, a wild rift, if you will. A wild rift. Later on, I can repair this rift with a well thought out redemption arc. This is sarcasm, by the way. And I really want her to wear a Dracula coat cause, come on, we can always sell another skin for lol. In order to get to this piece, how many things did I have to sacrifice? For starters, Piltover itself, the city. Piltover is a city with hundreds of years of tradition, with its own political system, a council consisting of members of the most important and wealthy families of the city. Nothing gets done unless the council votes on it, especially martial law in the city. We have plenty of scenes in the previous season with the council deliberating, voting and politicking. We had an entire plot point of Jace learning how to deal with these people, that it's all about give and take in the politics world. Good stuff. So, on one hand, we have a fleshed out political system that we have spent time and effort into fleshing out, and on the other, I really want Ambessa to be important, because I have this whole thing with Ambessa, taking Kate under her wing, and Ambessa is a champion. These people aren't champions. I don't want to play with them. Can I please play with Ambessa, please? Okay, fine. So you are going to build up a great mother-daughter dynamic between the mother who has lost her daughter and the daughter who has lost her mother? Yeah, fuck that. A counter-argument could be that the council has only a few members left. Not enough for a vote, which takes us back to why Piltover has been sacrificed for this. Are we meant to believe that a city with hundreds of years of history has no procedure in place to elect new council members? That there are no wealthy families who would only have to gain to have one of them sitting at the table? People who have been waiting for years. There should be more politicking and backstabbing. It's almost like this could have been Season 2. The politics of two cities in balance between the brink of war and civil war. Instead, what we are being told is that if the council members all perished in a bus crash while going on a trip, an entire city will fall into anarchy. Not any city, mind you, the most important city in the world when it comes to trading routes and technology. The City of Progress. The City of Progress can be destroyed by a bus falling off of a cliff. The City of Progress is but a cardboard cutout of a real city, a set, because I really want a foreign general to institute martial law in another country. That's not even getting into what has brought Kate to accept this development. Look, this ain't Why Arcane Killed My Family in an Alley Part 2, so I'll speedrun this. Only a few days ago her mother was killed by a single individual acting on her own delusions. Her immediate response to that is to get civilians in zone to get to Jinx. That's totally not evil, by the way. But she's a romantic, so she wants to do it with her girlfriend Vi, another Zonite. She goes behind Vi's back to Piltover's police station and blackmails them. She demands that Vi must be allowed to be an enforcer and that she is granted a task force with full jurisdiction over Zone because the Geneva Convention doesn't exist in Runeterra. She is granted everything she asks for because her family owns Piltover's police. That's totally not evil, by the way. Her mother's funeral is attacked by another Zonite acting on her own to take revenge on Jace for killing her son, something that Jace could have explained in 30 seconds. That's when Vi decides, yeah, this is totally an issue the whole city should pay for, so I'm going to wear the uniform of the people who killed my parents for daring to ask for human rights, and then I'm going to gas the innocent people I grew up with. She finally kisses Vi, which I cheer for, yay! But then I realize that's like kissing someone after forcing them to kill a puppy through gaslighting, so that makes me really uncomfortable now. Nay. They find Jinx, they have a music montage, fight. They win, but Vi doesn't let Kate kill an innocent plot device, child. Kate breaks up with Vi because Vi isn't into child murdering and that makes her a monster just like Jinx, according to Kate. That prompts Kate to hit Vi in the stomach and leave. Now, she's going to be evil. Now, after gassing innocent people, manipulating her girlfriend and almost killing a child right here, is where she snaps and she's like, oh, the gloves are off. Jesus, woman, the gloves were on? So this is all the writers had to do. Break, twist and ruin, so that they could put a Dracula coat on Kate. All of this to play with their toy. The city is fake, Vi is an abuse victim, Kate is almost a child murderer, and all of this because of a fucking coat and no payoff. The lie is evident. The man behind the curtain is hiding behind a finger. But complaining is easy, and I don't want this channel to be a rant channel. So let's talk about a scene that follows my criteria. Captain America, the first Avenger, the movie theater scene. In this scene, Steve Rogers is still a scrawny little Brooklyn boy. He's sitting in a movie theater watching propaganda about World War II before the movie begins. When a guy complains the first time that the movie isn't starting, Steve tells him, "You show some respect," which is consistent with his character so far. He tried multiple times to enlist to help his country and the people dying for it, so he feels gratitude. And probably a bit of shame that he's sitting here enjoying himself while they lose their life for his right to watch movies. The second time the guy complains, Steve snaps and tells him, "Hey, wanna shut up?" And he's shown as the only one doing something, while we see shots of all the other people that are disgusted by the bully behavior, but not enough to speak up. When the bully gets up and is revealed to be the human equivalent of a wardrobe, Steve doesn't shy away from the confrontation. We are now outside, and is being beaten to a pulp. Yet, he gets up and speaks his most important quote that to this day Marvel tries to abuse without understanding why it was so important. "I can do this all day." And with this second win, he gets beaten up again. Easily. Because the point is for his moral victory. He's an underdog. The movie is showing us that he deserves to be Captain America because he was Captain America before the serum. Like Dr. Erskine later says, he knows what strength is because he's never had any. He knows how to respect it. He's kind-hearted, doesn't back down, and plants himself like a tree for what he believes to be right. He doesn't want to kill. He just hates bullies, no matter where they're from. As writers, we had our toy in the scene. We have shown Steve winning, even if just morally, against an unstoppable foe. We didn't have to erase the city, the nation, twist characters. Steve acts in accordance with his values as a character. He is internally consistent. It was a simple scene, but you don't have to reinvent the wheel. What's more important is that this scene shows my bias. I am not one who likes the chosen one archetype. I want my characters to get things through hard work and meritocracy. So you tell me, did I correctly evaluate this scene, or was I more lenient with it because of my bias? You know my standards now, and if your job is to keep me honest, well then it's time to kick my teeth in. Captain America is a movie dear to me, and one I've watched for the first time when I was just a scrawny teenager myself. I'm still built like a wet noodle, but it made me start my fitness journey, because I wanted to be like him, so you can understand how biased I am. Did I manage to put aside my bias, or did I succumb to it? It's really easy to follow our biases, to find something when we start from the conclusion that there is something to be found. That's why biases are the first thing that the scientific method tries to remove. I wanted to call this channel Media Lab, or Media Scientist, or some other obnoxious bullshit like that. Truth is, we can't put art under a microscope, but we can take a page from science. We should follow the evidence where it leads and ask ourselves, what will prove me wrong? In science, you don't test to prove yourself right. You test to disprove your hypothesis, and when you fail, it becomes a theory. So in this same scene, what will prove me wrong? What will ruin this scene? Well, for starters, the word propaganda is never shown. Steve has no other reason to shut up the bully other than just a sense of self-righteousness. Steve doesn't directly challenge the bully, but instead calls for a clerk to handle the situation. He gets a sense of satisfaction from having the rules enforced while hiding behind others with power. Everyone else is also shouting at the bully, showing that Steve's behavior is not a sign of stepping up to the task and doing the right thing, but simply following the mass. When the bully stands up, Steve immediately changes behavior and pretends he never said anything, showing he is a coward. Once Steve becomes Captain America, he finds the bully again and beats the crap out of him for revenge, showing he has no respect for power nor deserves it. There are definitely more points, but you get the idea. And this video is already long enough. Now that you understand my methodology, how I operate, and why this channel exists, I'm genuinely curious to hear your thoughts. I'm a little scared, honestly, because I've built some goodwill with my first video, and I'm obviously worried about the day I say something dumb or controversial. Speaking of my first video, I just wanted to say thank you, honestly. Also, by the way, if my voice is different, it's because I'm recording this on a later day, and I got sick, and it messed up my voice even more, so please don't pay attention to that. Anyway, I've read all of your comments, and I was very happy to reply to each and every one of you. This channel had around 10 people when I started, and now it's close to 200. I know it's a small number in the grand scheme of YouTube, but I wish I could convey to you how happy it makes my little goblin brain to see number go big. We found each other through our shared suffering caused by Arcane, and I hope you're going to stick along for the ride. I plan to talk about things that I enjoy as well, but it's so much easier to fix things that I see as broken. If you want me to talk about something in particular, just let me know, be it TV shows, movies, or even narrative-driven games. Once again, thank you everyone, and see you in the next video.